He went to collect debt, instead rode away with an Apache bride who chose him as her partner. He woke before sunrise, the way he always did when there was work waiting. The town was still quiet, and a pale blue light sat on the edge of the sky. He folded his blanket, washed his face with cold water from a basin, and stepped outside. The air carried a soft chill, and the smell of dust and dry grass floated in from the open land. This journey was supposed to be simple. He had been sent to collect a debt from a man who had not paid what he owed for many months. It was a job he had done before. He was known as someone who stayed calm, spoke clearly, and finished what he started. He saddled his horse with steady hands. The animal knew him well and stood still, only flicking its tail now and then. He packed light, a small bag of food, a canteen, a blanket, and a few papers that proved the debt was real. The sun slowly climbed as he left the town behind. The road turned from packed dirt into open trail, and the buildings faded until they looked like tiny shapes on the horizon. He told himself he would be back in a few days. He did not expect anything unusual. It was just another ride, another task, another day on the wide land. As the hours passed, the land changed around him. The ground grew rough, and the hills rose like waves frozen in time. There were stretches where he did not see another person for miles. Only wind and the sound of his horse's hooves kept him company. Sometimes he hummed to himself to break the silence. He thought about the man he was supposed to meet. From what he had heard, the man had once been reliable, but had fallen behind after a long season of poor trade. Still, a promise was a promise. He believed in keeping things fair. He did not enjoy asking people for money, but he believed in finishing a job with honesty. By midday, the sun burned high and bright. He stopped near a small stream to let his horse drink. He sat on a flat stone and ate bread and dried meat. While he rested, he watched the sky and listened to the wind move through tall grass. The land felt old and wide, like it held many stories that he did not know. Travelers in town often spoke about these distant areas. Some stories were calm and simple about trade and travel. Others were filled with worry and fear. There were tales about people who lived beyond the familiar settlements. Some called them dangerous. Others said they were proud and guarded. He did not know what to believe. He preferred to judge people by what he saw with his own eyes. After resting, he climbed back into the saddle and continued forward. The trail became harder to follow. Sometimes it disappeared into patches of stone or dry earth. He had to watch carefully for signs of travel, hoof prints, broken branches, or faint marks in the dust. He knew the man he was looking for had traveled this way. At least, that was what he had been told. He trusted the information but kept his mind open. In lands like this, plans could change quickly. As the day moved toward evening, he reached a small trading post. It was little more than a wooden building and a few fences. A tired-looking man sat outside cleaning a tool. The traveler greeted him politely and asked about the debtor. The man at the post nodded slowly and said that the person he was looking for had passed through days earlier. He had headed farther into the open land, toward areas where few settlers went. The traveler felt a small weight in his chest. The journey was going to be longer than he had planned. He stayed the night at the trading post. The owner offered him a simple place to sleep and a warm meal. They spoke quietly over the fire. The owner warned him that the land ahead was not only wide but also filled with people who valued respect and caution. "If you go there," the owner said, "go with calm and clear intent. People notice how you act more than what you say." The traveler listened carefully. He was not a man who rushed into things. He believed in patience. Still, he knew he had to decide whether to continue or turn back. In the morning, he made his choice. He would follow the trail. He did not want to return without answers. He packed his things, thanked the owner, and rode out again. The land ahead felt different. It was quieter, and the air seemed heavier with meaning. He kept his movements steady and respectful. He did not want to appear as a threat to anyone he might meet. He rode with open eyes and a calm mind. As he traveled deeper into the open land, he noticed signs of life that were not from settlers. There were patterns in the ground, small paths that curved in ways that felt natural rather than planned. He saw distant shapes moving along a ridge, too far to make out clearly. He did not follow them or call out. He simply kept his course, letting the trail guide him. By late afternoon, the sky began to glow with warm colors. He decided to camp near a cluster of rocks that offered some shelter from the wind. He tied his horse, set a small fire, and prepared a simple meal. As he sat there, he thought about how far he had come from the town. The job that had seemed so ordinary now felt like the start of something he did not fully understand. He did not feel fear, only a quiet sense that the journey mattered in ways he had not expected. The night grew deep and filled with stars. He lay on his blanket and listened to the sounds around him. The land spoke in soft ways, the rustle of grass, the call of distant animals, the whisper of wind across stone. He closed his eyes and rested, knowing that tomorrow would bring new steps and new choices. At dawn, he woke to the cool touch of morning air. He packed up and set out again. The trail he followed began to show clearer signs that he was nearing people who lived close to the land. He rode slowly, careful not to disturb anything. He wanted to show that he came with peaceful intent. He believed that respect could be seen in small actions, how you moved, how you waited, how you spoke. As the sun climbed, he reached a rise in the land. From there, he could see a distant camp below, set near a line of trees and a small stream. Smoke curled gently into the sky. He stopped and watched from afar, not wanting to approach too quickly. He knew this moment mattered. He had come to collect a debt, but now he stood at the edge of a place where money was not the only thing that held value. Honor, trust, and patience were just as important. He took a slow breath and guided his horse down the slope, moving with care. Each step felt like a step into a story he had not planned. He did not know how he would be received or what would happen next. All he knew was that he would stay calm, speak honestly, and let his actions show who he was. The simple task that had brought him here now felt like the beginning of something larger, though he could not yet see its shape. He rode forward, steady and quiet, ready to face whatever waited ahead. He slowed his horse as he came closer to the camp. From a distance he could see small fires, simple shelters, and people moving with purpose. The place felt calm, not chaotic. He did not want to enter suddenly or make anyone uneasy, so he stopped far enough away to be seen but not too close. He raised one hand slowly, a quiet sign that he meant no harm. Then he waited. For a few moments, nothing happened. The wind moved through the grass and the smoke from the fires drifted upward. Then he noticed someone step out from behind a line of trees. It was a young woman. She walked with steady steps and a straight back, her eyes focused on him but not filled with fear. She stopped a short distance away and studied him carefully. There was strength in her posture and calm in her face. He could tell she was someone others listened to. He spoke first, keeping his voice gentle and clear. He explained that he was traveling alone and searching for a man who owed money. He said he had come with respect and only wished to ask questions. The woman listened without interrupting. She did not seem rushed. After a moment she spoke in a calm tone, asking simple questions about who he was and where he came from. He answered honestly. He did not try to hide anything or make himself sound more important than he was. The woman nodded slowly. She looked toward the camp and then back at him. With a small motion of her hand, she signaled for him to follow at a distance. He understood that this was not an invitation to enter freely, but a chance to be observed. He walked his horse slowly behind her, careful not to move too fast or too close. As they approached the camp, he could feel many eyes on him. People paused in their work and watched quietly. No one shouted. No one rushed forward. The air felt serious but not hostile. He stopped where she indicated and waited again. The woman spoke with a few elders and explained what he had said. He stood still, letting them talk. After a short time, one of the elders stepped forward. His face showed years of experience, and his voice carried calm authority. He asked the traveler to repeat his purpose. The man did so, choosing his words carefully. He spoke about the debt and about his journey to find the person responsible. He made it clear that he did not wish to cause trouble. He only wanted information and a fair resolution. The elder listened, then spoke quietly with the others. Finally, he told the traveler that he could stay for a short time as a guest under watchful eyes. The traveler felt a small sense of relief. He thanked them sincerely. He knew that trust was not given quickly in places like this. It had to be earned through actions. He was shown a place near the edge of the camp where he could rest. It was not far from others, but not in the center either. He understood the meaning of that. He unsaddled his horse and gave it water. Then he sat quietly, not wanting to draw too much attention. The young woman who had first approached him returned and offered him a simple meal. He accepted with gratitude. They spoke in short, careful sentences. She asked about his home and his work. He asked about the land and the seasons. Their conversation was calm, without pressure. As the day moved on, he watched the rhythm of the camp. People worked together with quiet cooperation. Some prepared food, others repaired tools or cared for animals. Children moved freely but stayed close to watchful adults. There was a sense of order that did not rely on loud commands. Everyone seemed to know their role. The traveler found himself observing with respect. This was not the place he had imagined when he first heard stories. It felt organized and full of quiet strength. The woman came and went, sometimes speaking with others, sometimes watching him from a distance. He noticed that when she spoke, people listened. She carried herself with confidence, not arrogance. At one point, she asked if he would help carry water from the stream. He agreed at once. Together, they walked to the water and filled containers. They did not speak much, but the silence felt comfortable. He could sense that she was studying his actions more than his words. Over the next day, he was given small tasks. Nothing too important, but enough to see how he behaved. He helped gather firewood. He repaired a loose strap on a saddle. He shared stories from his travels when asked. He did not boast or complain. He simply did what was needed and stayed respectful. Slowly, the watchful eyes around him softened. People still kept their distance, but the tension eased. One afternoon, a small group of travelers passed near the camp. There was a brief moment of confusion about their path and intentions. The traveler stepped forward calmly and helped explain the situation in simple terms. His quiet way of speaking helped settle the misunderstanding. Afterward, he stepped back again, not seeking praise. The young woman noticed this. She seemed to value actions that spoke without drawing attention. That evening, he sat near a fire with a few members of the camp. They shared food and simple conversation. The sky above was filled with stars, brighter than he had ever seen. He felt a strange sense of peace. He had come here with a clear goal, but now he found himself learning about people and ways of living that he had never known. The debt he had been sent to collect felt less urgent than the understanding he was gaining. The young woman joined them for a while. She asked him what he would do if he did not find the man he was looking for. He thought for a moment and answered honestly. He said he would report back what he had learned and accept whatever came next. She nodded, as if measuring his words against his actions. There was no rush in her manner. She seemed to believe that time revealed truth better than quick decisions. As the night grew deeper, he returned to his resting place. He lay under the open sky and thought about how quickly his simple task had changed. He had expected a short trip and a quick return. Instead, he had found himself in a place where every action mattered. He did not feel trapped or unwelcome. He felt observed, yes, but also given a chance to show who he was. The next morning, the camp woke early. He rose with them and helped with small chores without being asked. The young woman watched from a distance. Later, she walked with him along the edge of the camp. She asked more about his life, his family, his work, his reasons for traveling alone. He answered with honesty. In return, she shared small pieces of her own story. Not everything, but enough to show trust. She spoke about responsibility, about making choices carefully, and about valuing people who kept their word. By midday, he realized that his presence there had become more than a brief stop. He had entered a place where trust was measured in patience and consistency. The young woman seemed to understand him in a quiet way, not through long speeches, but through shared moments of work and calm conversation. He began to see that this meeting, which started with caution and curiosity, might shape the path ahead in ways he could not yet predict. Still, he did not forget why he had come. He continued to ask about the man who owed the debt. Some in the camp had heard of him. They said he had passed through, but had moved on again, heading even farther away. The traveler listened carefully. He knew his journey might need to continue, but for now he remained where he was, learning and being watched, building a quiet bridge of trust, one small action at a time. The days that followed moved at a calm and steady pace. The man did not rush or act like a visitor who planned to leave at any moment. He woke early the same time as everyone else and quietly joined in whatever small tasks were happening. He carried water, gathered dry branches for fires, and helped repair simple tools. No one gave him special treatment, and he did not expect any. He understood that trust here was not built through words alone. It came from watching how a person behaved when no one was asking for attention. At first, some people in the camp still kept their distance. They watched him from the corners of their eyes as they worked. He noticed this but did not let it trouble him. Instead, he stayed patient. When someone asked for help, he stepped forward. When no one asked, he stayed quiet and observed. He tried to learn the rhythm of the place. There were times for work, times for rest, and times for quiet conversation near the fire. Everything felt connected to the land and the seasons. Nothing felt rushed. The young woman who had first spoken to him remained observant. She did not follow him everywhere, but she always seemed aware of what he was doing. Sometimes she joined him when he carried water or gathered wood. Other times she spoke with others while watching him from a short distance. She asked simple questions, not in a way that felt like an interview, but in a way that showed she was trying to understand him. He answered with honesty each time. He never tried to impress her with big stories. He believed that truth was enough. One morning, the sky was covered with soft clouds, and the air felt cooler than usual. A small problem arose when a group of travelers passed near the camp. They were unsure about the path ahead and seemed worried about crossing into unfamiliar territory. There was no anger, only confusion. The man stepped forward carefully and spoke in a calm voice. He explained what he knew about the trails and offered simple guidance. He did not take control of the situation, but his steady tone helped ease the tension. The travelers thanked him and moved on peacefully. Afterward, a few members of the camp gave him small nods of approval. It was not loud praise, but it was enough to show that they had noticed his actions. The young woman watched this quietly. Later that day, she walked beside him near the stream. She asked why he had chosen to help when it was not his responsibility. He shrugged gently and said that calm solutions often worked better than sharp words. She seemed to consider this for a moment, then gave a faint smile before turning back toward the camp. As time passed, the man began to feel more comfortable in the daily routine. He still remembered the reason he had come, but he no longer felt as if he were just passing through. He was learning about the people around him, and they were learning about him. Trust did not arrive all at once. It grew slowly, like a plant that needed care and patience. One afternoon, while repairing a worn strap on a saddle, he noticed a young boy watching him closely. The boy looked curious but unsure whether he should speak. The man smiled and showed him how to tighten the strap properly. The boy listened and tried it himself. When it worked, his face lit up with quiet pride. Moments like this made the man feel that he was becoming part of the camp's daily life, even if only for a short time. The young woman approached them and thanked him for helping. She spoke about how small acts of patience often meant more than grand gestures. He agreed. He told her that in his experience, people remembered kindness more than strength. She listened carefully, as if storing his words for later thought. Their conversations were never long, but they always felt meaningful. There was a sense that both of them were learning from each other. In the evenings, the camp gathered near the fires. People shared simple meals and quiet stories. The man sat with them, sometimes speaking, sometimes just listening. He did not try to stand out. He let the moments unfold naturally. The young woman often sat nearby. Sometimes they exchanged a few words about the day. Other times they sat in silence, watching the flames and the stars above. The silence did not feel empty. It felt comfortable. like a shared understanding that did not need constant speech. One day, a strong wind swept through the area, knocking over a few light structures and scattering supplies. Everyone moved quickly but calmly to secure what they could. The man joined in without being asked. He tied down loose ropes, gathered scattered items, and helped rebuild what had fallen. He worked until the wind slowed and everything was safe again. No one praised him directly, but the way people looked at him had changed. There was more acceptance in their eyes. The young woman approached him later and handed him a cup of water. She thanked him for his help. He replied that it was the right thing to do. She studied his face for a moment, as if trying to understand what guided him. Then she spoke about how actions reveal a person's character more clearly than words. He nodded. He believed the same. As the days continued, he realized that his presence was no longer seen as unusual. He had become part of the background of daily life. People spoke to him more easily. They asked about his travels and shared small stories of their own. He still asked about the man who owed the debt, and he learned that the person had moved on again, heading farther into distant lands. This meant his journey was not yet finished. But for now he remained where he was, building connections that felt real and steady. The young woman began to speak with him more often. They talked about responsibility, choices, and the meaning of trust. She explained that in her community decisions were not made lightly. People observed each other over time. They valued those who showed consistency and respect. He listened carefully. He did not assume anything about the future. He simply appreciated the chance to understand her world better. One evening they walked along the edge of the camp as the sun set. The sky turned warm shades of orange and gold. She asked him what he planned to do when he eventually left. He admitted that he did not know exactly. He would continue his search, but he would also carry what he had learned here. She seemed thoughtful. She said that sometimes journeys changed people in ways they did not expect. He agreed quietly. Over time, their conversations grew more open. They shared thoughts about life, work, and the importance of staying true to one's values. There was no rush or pressure. They simply spoke and listened. The man began to feel a quiet admiration for her strength and calm presence. She seemed to respect his honesty and patience. Neither of them spoke of anything beyond the present moment, but there was a sense that their paths were becoming connected in ways that went deeper than a simple meeting. As another day ended, the man sat near the fire and thought about how much had changed since he first arrived. He had come looking for a person and a payment. Instead, he had found a place where actions mattered more than titles. He had found people who measured worth through consistency and care. And he had found a connection with someone who saw him clearly, without judgment or expectation. He knew that his journey would continue. There were still roads to travel and answers to find. But he also knew that whatever happened next, these days had already shaped him. Trust had been built slowly, through shared work, calm words, and quiet understanding. It was not something that could be rushed or forced. It had grown naturally, like a steady flame that stayed lit even in the wind. The days moved forward with a steady rhythm, but something in the air began to feel different. It was not a sudden change. It was slow and quiet, like a shift in the wind that only careful people noticed. The man continued to help with daily tasks, just as he had done since he arrived. He did not assume he belonged, yet he no longer felt like a stranger. People spoke to him with more ease. They asked for his help without hesitation. When he spoke, they listened without doubt. Trust had grown step by step, built through many small actions that spoke louder than promises. The young woman remained calm and thoughtful as always. She did not rush into decisions. She observed, listened, and took her time. Still, it was clear that her attention toward him had grown stronger. She asked deeper questions now, not only about where he came from, but about what guided him. She wanted to know how he made choices when things were uncertain. She asked how he handled moments when the path ahead was not clear. He answered honestly, explaining that he believed in staying patient and choosing what felt right, even when it was difficult. One evening, after a long day of work, the camp gathered near the fires. The sky above was filled with stars, and the air carried a quiet peace. The man sat near the edge of the group, watching the flames and listening to soft conversations. He felt a sense of belonging he had not expected to find. He had come here for a simple reason, but now he felt connected to the place in ways he could not easily explain. The young woman approached him and asked if he would walk with her for a while. He agreed. They moved away from the fires and toward a quiet area near the trees. The night was calm, and the sound of the wind through the leaves created a gentle rhythm. They walked side by side without speaking at first. The silence felt natural, not awkward. After a while, she stopped and turned to face him. She spoke carefully, choosing her words with thought. She said that in her community, important decisions were made with patience and respect. People watched each other over time. They looked for honesty, steadiness, and the ability to stand firm in difficult moments. She told him that she had observed him since the day he arrived. She had seen how he worked, how he spoke, and how he treated others. She respected his calm nature and his fairness. The man listened quietly, unsure where her words were leading. He felt both curious and thoughtful. He knew that whatever she was about to say would matter. She continued, explaining that sometimes a person's path crossed with another's for a reason. When that happened, it was important to recognize the moment and decide what to do with it. She told him that she believed their meeting was not just chance. She believed it carried meaning. Her words were clear but gentle. She explained that according to her traditions, a person could choose a partner based on trust and shared values. It was not a decision made lightly or in haste. It was a choice made with full awareness and respect. She told him that she had come to see him as someone dependable and kind. She said she believed he could walk beside her in life as an equal partner. The man felt a rush of emotions. He had not expected this. He had come only to finish a job and return home. Yet here he stood, being offered something far more meaningful than he had ever imagined. He did not answer immediately. He knew that this moment deserved careful thought. He respected her honesty and courage. He did not want to respond without understanding what it would mean for both of them. They sat on a flat stone near the trees. The night air felt cool, and the stars shone brightly above them. He spoke slowly, explaining that he was honored by her words. He admitted that he felt a strong respect for her as well. He admired her strength, her calm way of thinking, and her deep connection to her community. But he also shared his uncertainty. He had responsibilities back home. He had a life that followed a different path. He did not want to make a decision that would cause regret for either of them. She listened without interruption. When he finished, she nodded. She said she understood his concerns. She did not expect a quick answer. She believed that true decisions came from careful thought. She only wanted him to know how she felt and to give him the chance to consider what he wanted for his future. Her calm acceptance of his uncertainty made the moment feel even more sincere. Over the next few days, the man found himself thinking deeply. As he worked and moved through the camp, he considered the life he had known before. It had been steady but often lonely. His days were filled with tasks, but not always with connection. Here, he had found a sense of belonging and purpose. He had found people who valued honesty and respect. And he had found someone who saw him clearly and chose him without pressure or demand. He spoke with a few elders in the camp. They did not try to persuade him. They simply shared their thoughts about partnership and responsibility. They explained that such a choice required mutual understanding and commitment. It was not about leaving one life behind and taking another. It was about building something new together with patience and care. The young woman gave him space to think. She continued her daily work and did not bring up the topic again. Her quiet confidence showed that she trusted him to decide in his own time. This made his thoughts clearer. He realized that her offer was not about obligation. It was about respect and shared values. It was an invitation, not a demand. One evening, as the sun set and the sky turned warm shades of gold, he walked toward her. She was standing near the edge of the camp, looking out over the land. He stopped beside her and took a slow breath. Then he spoke. He told her that he had thought carefully about her words and about his own life. He admitted that he had come here with a simple goal but had found something far more meaningful. He said that he respected her deeply and believed they could build a future based on trust and understanding. Her face remained calm, but her eyes showed quiet relief. She nodded and thanked him for speaking with honesty. They did not celebrate loudly or draw attention. Instead, they shared a quiet moment of understanding. Their decision was not about sudden emotion. It was about careful thought and mutual respect. The camp accepted their choice with calm approval. Some offered gentle smiles, others gave quiet nods. There was no need for grand announcements. Everyone understood that such decisions carried weight and meaning. The man felt a mixture of peace and anticipation. He knew that the path ahead would be different from anything he had planned. But he also felt ready to walk it with her. As night fell, they sat near the fire with the others. The flames flickered softly and the stars filled the sky. The man realized that his journey had changed in a way he never expected. He had come to collect something small and practical. Instead, he had found a connection built on trust and respect. The choice they had made did not erase his past. It simply opened the door to a new future, one that they would face together with patience and care. The morning after their decision felt calm and clear, as if the land itself understood that something important had changed. The man woke early, just as he always did, but his thoughts were different now. He no longer saw himself as someone passing through. He knew he was standing at the beginning of a new path, one he had chosen carefully. The sky held a soft light, and the air carried the quiet sounds of people starting their day. Nothing in the camp felt rushed. Everything moved with steady purpose. He stepped outside and saw her near the stream, filling a container with water. She turned and gave him a small smile, one that showed confidence rather than surprise. There were no dramatic moments or loud celebrations. Their choice had been made with thought and respect, and it was accepted in the same calm way. He walked over and helped carry the water back. They spoke about simple things, what needed to be done that day, which tasks were most important. It felt natural, as if they had always worked side by side. Still, he knew there were matters to settle. He had come on a mission, and even though his life had taken a new direction, he did not want to ignore his responsibilities. Later that day, he spoke with the elders of the camp. He explained where he had come from and what his original purpose had been. He told them he wanted to return briefly to settle his affairs and explain his decision to those who had sent him. He did not want to leave without honesty. The elders listened and agreed that clarity was important. They respected his wish to handle things with care. The young woman stood with him as he spoke. She did not interrupt. She trusted him to do what was right. When the conversation ended, they walked together along the edge of the camp. He told her that he would return after he finished what he needed to do. He did not want her to feel uncertain. She nodded and said she believed him. Her trust felt strong and steady. It was not based on promises alone, but on the way he had acted since the day he arrived. The following morning, he prepared for the short journey back. He packed lightly, just as he had when he first arrived. But this time, his heart felt different. He was not leaving as someone alone. He was leaving with a clear intention to return. Before he mounted his horse, he turned to look at the camp. The people who had once watched him with caution now stood with quiet acceptance. Some gave small nods, others offered simple words of safe travel. The young woman stood near the front, calm and sure. Their eyes met, and he felt a sense of certainty that steadied him. He rode back across the open land, following the same trail he had taken before. The hills and plains looked familiar, yet everything felt changed. He was not just thinking about a job anymore. He was thinking about the life he was choosing. When he reached the small trading post, the owner looked surprised to see him return so soon. They shared a meal, and the man explained what had happened. The owner listened with wide eyes and then gave a slow smile. He said that life often brought unexpected turns, and that what mattered most was making choices with honesty. When he reached his hometown, he went straight to the place where he worked. He spoke with his employer and explained everything clearly. He told the truth about the debtor, about the journey, and about the decision he had made. He expected questions, maybe even doubt. Instead, he found understanding. His employer saw the calm certainty in his face and realized that this was not a careless choice. It was one made with thought and respect. They spoke for a long time, and by the end of the conversation there was no anger, only acceptance. He settled what needed to be settled. He handed over the papers and explained that he would not continue his work there. He thanked them for the trust they had placed in him. Then he returned to the open road once more. This time he did not feel uncertain. He felt steady. He knew exactly where he was going and why. The ride back felt both familiar and new. The land stretched wide and open, and the wind carried a sense of calm. He reached the camp after several days. As he approached, he saw people moving about as they always did. The young woman noticed him first. She walked forward, her expression steady and warm. When he stopped, she gave a small nod, as if she had never doubted he would return. He stepped down from his horse and stood beside her. No grand words were needed. Their understanding was clear. Life began to move forward with new purpose. They worked together, learning from each other each day. He learned more about the customs and rhythms of her community. She listened to his stories and ideas about the wider world. They found ways to blend their experiences, building a shared routine that felt balanced and strong. It was not always easy. There were moments when they had to adjust and learn, but they faced those moments with patience. The man realized that he had not lost his old life. He had carried its lessons with him. He still believed in fairness and responsibility. He still valued calm decisions and honest words. But now he also understood the strength of connection and shared purpose. He had gained more than he had expected when he first set out on his journey. As the seasons changed, their bond grew deeper. They supported each other in daily work and in quiet moments of rest. They spoke about the future, not in a hurried way, but with steady confidence. The camp became not just a place he stayed, but a place he belonged. The land that once felt distant now felt familiar. The people who had once watched him from afar now treated him as one of their own. Sometimes in the evenings he would sit near the fire and think about the day he had left home to collect a simple debt. He would smile quietly at how much had changed. He had started with a task and ended with a new life. He had come looking for something small and had found something lasting. The choice they had made together had turned an ordinary journey into a meaningful one. Their story became a quiet example of how unexpected paths could lead to strong connections. It was not about leaving everything behind. It was about building something new, with respect and understanding. The man who had once traveled alone now walked beside someone who trusted him fully. Together they faced each day with calm determination. As another sunset painted the sky with warm colors, they stood side by side and looked out over the land. The wind moved through the grass, and the world felt wide and full of possibility. He knew that life would continue to bring challenges and changes. But he also knew that he was no longer facing them alone. He had found a partner who chose him not by chance, but by careful decision. And he had chosen her in return, with equal care. The journey that began with a simple errand had led to a future built on trust, patience, and shared purpose. What he had set out to collect was left behind, and what he gained instead was something far more valuable. Their path forward stretched wide and open, and they rode toward it together, steady and certain, ready for whatever the days ahead would bring.